Добрый день, уважаемые участники.
Good afternoon, dear participants. Our today's discussion will be quite interesting. We'll speak about innovations in the field of complex tax administration, and we'll speak about self-employed persons. I would like to welcome all participants. Alexander Voloshev, who created the company, Yandex company, and also here it's important that Arkady supported our beginnings. He created the first IP interface. All Yandex taxi drivers have an opportunity to work as self-employed, and this is quite attractive for them. Also, German Graf, so this is my teacher, my coach, and we work together for many years at the Ministry of Economic Development. And today with the Savings Bank, we create digital platforms which see each other and hear each other, and they make the lives of taxpayers more comfortable. Also, Ilya Trunin, Deputy Minister of Finance of the Russian Federation. We'll discuss everything which is really connected with him, and our taxpayers, wait for us to have less challenges in this tax policy, and we try to respond to these challenges. And also our guest, Maxim Anatolievich Melnikov, Director General and also creator of Tsan Group, real estate. I think for today you all know Tsan Group. It's in the top of 10 world companies which which are busy with real estate. Tsan also last week Tsan also opened its IP, and also Mr. Makarov, so Andrei Makarov, we have been working together with him for many years. We like his approaches, and his approaches are important. They also transform the world. Thank you very much that you came to us and you participate in our panel. Let's look at a very short video. Digital transformation, also transformation of business models, the influence on how companies interact. Around us, a new world is being formed. Data is very important. New ways of working with data give us new opportunities, change our possibilities. And today, even a schoolboy sitting at the computer has great possibilities. He can launch a new chain of the added value, which can push away some not necessary products. The main economic trend is Uberization, and at the forefront of new economy, we have digital platforms which gather massives of big data. And sometimes it's not seen for regulators. We know that bots and artificial intelligence take away work from people. We have easy access to financial services. A lot of financial services, sidestep the transactions. Cryptocurrency also raises the question about financial regulators. What will be next? Are regulators ready for digital transformation? Or should we form our new digital systems? Tax borders should be in the center of this process, and we'll try to achieve it. Okay, so for today, we have a lot of transformation. We are entering the digital world, and habitual things, habitual paradigms are changing. For today, in the digital world, we have a lot of platforms, and these platforms connect consumer of goods or services with suppliers very quickly. Sidestepping regulators, economy of joint share. So you use resources in a very in an optimum way, and when you use this resource, we get less opportunities for business because a young person, so he uses mobile phones. And he has great opportunities also. And this optimum distribution of resources gives a good effect. It creates added value, and it avoids regulators. This is the challenge when all these digital platforms sidestep regulators. And this is the challenge for everybody, for the government, not only for regulators. Digital platforms, which are created today in the ecosystem, these are mini states, mini governments. They have their own policy, their own army, they have their own money. In this case, we have to understand what's going on. And we should not, have the war with such things, but we should fit them in properly. And we need to have the niche which we need to have. Self-employed. This is only the consequence of digital economy. Self-employed. These are physical entities who don't have employers. But also they don't have hired people. They produce goods and services for themselves. Self-employed, this is the benefit mode. The government did this to give people to fit in a new digital system. And this is the consequence. But we're speaking about quite serious digital transformations. Everybody, all the areas of industry are subject to this. So now we have to understand that we deal with very big ecosystem. Arkady Volozh, who created a unique technology, because Yandex today is an ecosystem. Several years ago, we even did not know about such services which Yandex represents. This is a quite big, serious ecosystem. It gives services, helps people to solve the problems. And potentially it also avoids regulators. But for today, Yandex did its best for us to fit in the lives of taxpayers. So the first question to you, Arkady, so you are now working at a lot of technologies, and these technologies change lives of our physical entities dramatically. What should we expect from you in this case? So before speaking about new technologies, I would like to argue with you a little bit, because you say that new technologies, you can't control a lot of things because of them. But I think it's vice versa. New technologies have some negative things. We lose privacy, and so on. And but we can live with this. But also new technologies have positive things. All these new services, mostly marketplaces, when at one side we have those who consume goods and those who present goods or services. All these marketplaces, these are like new modern cities. Now we live in cities and we use infrastructure of cities. We can go to the village and become invisible. But we prefer cities. The same with these marketplaces. If you are a teacher, a nurse, you can work as you want, or you can go to the marketplace to get a customer. But you now live in the city and you become transparent. And these marketplaces are very important for tax services, much easier to manage. It's much easier than to have scattered people who do something. And this is a win-win situation for everybody. People come to a site, to the marketplace, and their business is being developed very quickly. Customers come to the marketplace so they can get services. And the state tax service also can see transparency. And this is so tax transparency is very useful for all people, for those who gather taxes and those who pay taxes. Because if we so the tax service need to have this everything transparent, because some people don't pay if it's not transparent. A good administration, transparency, give opportunity to distribute tax, very equally, and everybody can pay quite a small tax. And these marketplaces gives us this opportunity to administrate easily, to split the tax honestly between each other. This tax on self-employed, this is a very good example. Because sometimes, so earlier it was very difficult to gather the tax. Self-employed, everybody pay a little bit, but so the final amount of money is quite big. So new technologies gave us this transparency, gave us this easy administration, and makes our lives much easier. I spoke about the technologies of Yandex, which will lead us into the future. But in this sense, your mindset is quite transparent, and I can answer this. Aggregators, the services of which are outside Russia, they also rent the services, and they are invisible. They are gray spots for any economic model. And if you don't have any opportunities, the self-employed system, this is like official legalization. So I can say that the appropriate tax services have to impose 30% on the fund of labor payment, taxi drivers, and to present this to the company which renders the service, and also 12% of income tax. I can say this is your mindset, it's very important that aggregators, for example, Sun Company, we are thankful to you because the colleague also wants to make the situation better. If those who pay for the rent of the flat, so they should be legal. So this 4% are not. It's not a big amount of money, but it's very important for us. No worries for people.
Still, what new technologies will Yandex offer to the new generation in the digital era? Should I speak about all of them? At least about 3 of them. Okay, let me draw the following example of a new technology. If we speak, for example, about unmanned cars and regulation of unmanned cars, of drones, of course we are complaining, we say that everything happens too slowly, but we in our country have a law which allows us to experiment on these technologies. There are countries where such laws are more advanced than in our country, but in some countries there are no laws at all, where people cannot use drones or unmanned cars. So unmanned cars and unmanned cars regulation in our country is on a pretty advanced level. That's one example. there are so many wonderful services in the Yandex ecosystem, and that help people to simplify the communication, to exchange goods and services. And of course, it is very important that people are willing to pay taxes that they're meant to pay, and I hope that it will be like that. My next question goes to Mr. Graf. I worked with Mr. Graf some time ago, and he motivated me a great deal. And that motivation helped to do a lot, starting with digital registration and using many new technologies. Things that happened to Sberbank, to the oldest bank in Russia, is the example of how you can turn your business into a digital platform. That was an enormous work to transfer this bank to the digital platform. And that is kind of work that Yandex undertakes, that we, the Federal Tax Service, undertake. For example, let us take Sberbank Online and personal taxpayer page at Federal Tax Service website. It actually enabled a Russian cosmonaut to pay his bills using these two digital services. What I'm saying is that new technologies that Sberbank uses, they are designed together with the government, and that is not this vertical hierarchy, but a horizontal one, because today data is king. It is oil and gas of the 21st century. And when you analyze data, when you process data, you start to communicate with other people in a totally different manner. Mr. Graf, you are Minister for Economic Development. You understand that all of the digital platforms should be legal. They should be monitored by the government. What will Sberbank do in the future? And is the government digitally mature enough to help design such platforms? Mr. Mishustin, thank you very much for having me here. I was a speaker before, and before on the first session, and I feel awkward by being so much exposed for so much time. I'll do my best though. And we've got quite a company here on the stage, because Yandex and Xi'an and the tax service, we're all united by this understanding of how we should use modern technologies. We all hope that we'll be able to scale new technologies, to distribute new technologies. And we all understand that. And if I may, let me please speak about something different, not about something that you actually asked me about. Of course, Mr. Wolosh spoke about his favorite topic, unmanned cars. If I start to talk about our new services, that will take quite a while. But first, I believe that we went through an enormous transformation of our country and of the world, and we have to respond to this transformation. The government, the state should respond. These new generations that today are full-fledged actors of our everyday economic life, I am referring to the Generation Y and to the Generation Z, they're different. We should admit that. They grew up in the age of the internet, and they all want to be recognized as fast, as quick as possible. They're all individuals. They're used to reacting to changes very timely, and they want to be recognized very quickly as well. The expectations in your virtual life and in your real life, they do not always correspond. There is this gap between their internet experience and between their real life. You know, this interaction with their followers, with their friends on social networks, and they find it harder to get this kind of feedback in the real life that they get in the internet. I believe they're less lucky. Our generation, those people who today are 40 years old, 50 years old, we were part of this revolution of the late 90s, of the early 2000s, and we have all occupied our positions in politics and business, and we're still here because healthcare is better and so on and so forth. I remember back in the days, for me, people who were older than 50 years old, they were old for me. And now, it is not like that. Steve Jobs, for example, would be pretty old by now, as well as all other disruptors. And they all hold on to their places. And that is why young people have to embark on this classic pursuit of a career. Another important point to mention about the new generations. They are accustomed to people paying attention to them, and they want to be creative, they want to change the globe, and their virtual life for them, it should be transferred into the real life, but they don't see that happening. And the only thing that unites them all are new technologies, social networks, the internet, and by the way, they do not watch TV. You can forget about the word PR altogether, because that is not how you reach out to them. I'm sorry, dear heads of national TV channels, but that is like that. And by the way, TV channels understand that, and they're changing. PR is replaced by SMM, social media marketing. That is something the government should pay attention to as well. So you should change your political agenda into technological agenda. There is no alternative. And what you do, to my mind, is exactly that. You change governmental policies and you lead the pack here. That is what we talked about at the plenary session. And you are scalable. You are not monopolizing the tax system. You can say, we do not need anything. We have our website, we have our personal pages for taxpayers. We won't be having anyone here. You say, no, I want to have businesses here working together with me, because they will help us to develop, to make our services more user-friendly, better. And that is a wonderful way to go. The most important thing is not that you collect more taxes now, though it is very nice. Our macro economy is very healthy now, thanks to that. I didn't really see the research on how tax administration influences macro economy, but still, the most important thing is that you promote a flat way of cooperating with the market and with businesses. I believe that is the most valuable thing, and that is a very illustrative example of building this microservice architecture, microservice policy, when you work with so many parties on equal basis. Thank you, Mr. Graf. Now, my follow-up question goes to Maxim Melnikov, CEO of the CN Group. For us, this pages of aggregators and so on and so forth that we have on our platform, that is a sign of trust. Because we cannot ask Cian or somebody else to open an API, but the companies, they are willing to invest to have this API interface, because you need to have it all integrated for your customers not to even take notice of the tax service. So, Mr. Melnikov, you are not forced to come here. I asked people to invite you to come here because we are not acquainted. So my question to you is, what about landlords? Are they willing to legalize their businesses? What do they think about it? And what will happen next? Will you inform us about it as a platform, as a marketplace, or will have a service in place when people will be using some site services to pay their taxes to the tax service? Well, first of all, good afternoon, everyone. I will make 3 points in my remarks. I'll speak about the real estate renting market first, and I will be discussing why we promote self-employed people and why we are using API interfaces and what kind of things we'll be doing in the future. So, housing rent market is pretty big. In money terms, we are speaking about 1.5 trillion ruble market. But if we look at the percentage of flats that are rented legally, that is a quite moderate percent. We have a more detailed data on Moscow. A very low percentage of apartments here in Moscow are lent and taxes are paid. And of course landlords are very concerned. It pains them. The current situation pains them, as we refer to it. For many years we've been, this information database where we looked through various notifications on our website and we were moderating them, but now it all changes. We believe that is all now in the past.
And now, this year, we have launched a new project. So now we have only first pilots, first tests, and this is the reason why we decided to come to Federal Tax Service and why we use API. We are obliged to participate in the changes of this market because the market is being changed and we are becoming obsolete. The first, historically, these were real estate agents. They participated in a lot of transactions. And according with our estimates, 50% of rent transactions happen via C2C without real estate agents. And also, landowners and those who rent, they want to gather, to speak with each other. They want also to have quite a protected environment as a city, as Arkady said. They should know that there is no fake, no fraud, but because there is a lot of this fraud present at this market. With Sun, we'll make a pilot project and we'll have a service for landlords and also for rentiers. Usually when landlords come to us, we register these people. We promote their apartments on our sites. We check everything. Also, we make up questionnaires of those who want to live in this flat, in this apartment. We also check these people who want to use these apartments, criminal records, whether they have criminal records and so on. I think this service will be very convenient for landlords, and this will be the best one. You know about renters everything, potential renters, and so of course so those who want to rent this apartment, also solve a lot of problems for them. We check apartments of landlords and so on. So we can see this market transformation which becomes more C2C. And both parties want this, buyers and sellers. And we were sure that a lot of these transactions can be conducted online. Of course, besides shows of the apartments, how can we work this on business? Only if it's legal and if money comes through us. In this case, we can take our fee, and then we can give the tax, self-employed tax, to the Federal Tax Service. What have we done? We started to understand the needs of people. We changed a lot of things already, and we continue to change the system. And in the beginning of September, we asked ourselves what happened from the point of view of landlords. Do they know about the self-employed system? Did they become self-employed already or not? And do they have such a status? It's clear that this figure is not very representative, because this is through our mobile application, and we asked only Muscovites. But nevertheless, 45 landlords said that they know about self-employed thing, and 55 no. And then the second question was, we asked them whether they registered or not. And 19% of landlords who are on town site are already registered as self-employed. 19%. Of course, we bombarded them with different letters. We explain the advantages, how easy this is to do, and what will happen if you don't register, and the government has guarantees for you. So about 30% of articles, 30,000 of articles, but still, so people can be inspired, even if they, for example, cheat a little bit with figures, still the information is here. Thank you very much, Maxim. Maybe we'll help you to create new interfaces and new services, because this 4%, this is not a scary figure, but it should be cyclic. Then we should see what happens with your IP. My next question is to the author of the draft law of self-employed persons, a person who helps tax service to make our dreams come true, and tax administration can become not a burden anymore with the help of Andrei Mikhailovich. So when we discussed this, draft law, you wanted to become an author and of this law draft. I remember many people said that you want to gather some additional taxes from poor people, but this is false. Self-employed had to pay 13% and companies 30% of insurance fee. And here the government took measures, unprecedented measures, and you realized this. Now insurance fees are cancelled and the minimum tax burden is here 4% for physical persons, 6% for legal entities. Please tell us, do you have any further plans how to meet the challenges of the digital economy? And is it easy to make laws out of all innovative ideas? And how else you can change the law? Thank you very much. First of all, for this invitation here, and also for your kind words towards me. Please get your microphone closer. And also, I would like to thank German Oskarovich because his words about this generation, which is a little bit postponed, these words are fair. So I can refer myself to this generation. You know, we're all there. Please make the sound a little bit louder. Okay, German, but you have everything just ahead of you. You are not my generation. So now, just several words at the beginning. We're discussing quite a narrow subject, but the basis for the basis how to solve it is quite far from us. I would like to propose two things. Not a single taxpayer will pay more taxes than he's ready to pay. At any quality of administration, and you know, nobody will make him do this. He can be put into prison, but make him pay taxes if he's not ready to pay them, it's not possible. But this readiness, preparedness to pay taxes can be defined not even by the amount of tax, but is defined by trust. Trust of taxpayers towards the government. And I would like to remind you of this. Not recently, just recently, tax service was in the first third systems which prevent business to develop. So here we can see a huge step made by the tax service. This is a breakthrough, and now the government has to follow the tax service. Is the government ready to make this breakthrough? I don't know. But then there is another question. So, do you remember? So nurses can notify tax service, and then they won't buy anything. Only several thousand people did this, but this is already a success. Because tax service nobody touched. Tax service did not touch them. It was also a success that people who did this saw that the government keeps its promise. Yes, maybe we have successful or unsuccessful tax amnesty, but you can, you know, have an application to the tax service, and nobody will cheat you. Tax service did not give an opportunity to cheat anybody. So amnesty of capital was there. And tax service facilitated to increase trust of people towards the tax service and the government. So, but trust is important. And then, in accordance with this law, so Mikhail increases the significance of this draft law. And we would not have this draft law if we did not have these wonderful technologies. And these technologies made our tax service the best in the world. And this is admitted by the whole world. Those possibilities can be realized with the help of the technologies. In 1998, when we wrote the general part of the tax code, and we also wrote about the presumption of innocence of taxpayers, everybody asked me, "Are you crazy? What are you writing about this?" But in our country, we had always this shift towards the government, and it was necessary to write about this in our tax code. And we realized this today already. And maybe this is our main accomplishment, and this is about self-employed. And this is a part of the process. And I look at this as the part of the process. And this is not the issue of tax payment, even. 82 billion of able people, 52 million of people who pay insurance fee. Where are these 30 million people? Of course, they are not all self-employed, but 30 million people are missing, and you can't make them do this. But what tax service did, what laws did, this was a proposal for people. And some people used this, some did not use this. But for us, it's important to keep the promise which we gave to them. We need to preserve the conditions because we have disputes. And Mikhail Vladimirovich tried to prove that we cannot create these conditions for more than 10 years. Because some people will go out from the gray, from the shadow, and so they will not be punished. So we have this unique situation, 10 years. For 10 years, these conditions cannot be changed. And we can see some people who are registered already. But, you know, these 10 years are important. People believe us that within the 10 years they will not be, you know, touched. But this law also has another significance. I remember that we all, you know, so 1.5% of the fund of medical obligatory insurance, but the medicine is more expensive. Here we had another principle. If a person knows that he paid for himself and, you know, he will have some other requirements towards medicine when he comes to the hospital. He will know that he paid for this, and in this case, he will have the right to pay taxes.
And when all of this pointless discussion on whether you should pay taxes, they do not make tax administration better. It is not the tax pressure that is increasing and that is affecting businesses, but it is not like that. I would like to see that this experiment, because that is not the new tax code, but an experiment that actually tackles these fundamental issues, not just make somebody to become legal. I would like to learn your personal opinion on how we can proceed with this experiment. Thank you for promising to give me the floor once again, because I didn't think you would do that. But let me please wrap up my comment by a quote of Orwell. He said, "The past is determined by those people who control the present." and the future is controlled by those who control the present. I believe that is a key quote for us. I believe that is Mr. Trunin who controls tax policies of today. Undoubtedly, what Mr. Makarov was speaking about are pretty complex matter. Businesses are not ready to pay more than 4 to 6%. Nobody wants to go to tax offices. Nobody wants to file any documents. These are the three challenges that we wanted to deal with. We wanted the technology to play on our field. And I would like to thank those of you who complimented the work of the tax service, because we have representatives of regional tax service bodies. The Ministry for Finance works a lot, and maybe that is not something that is covered by the media outlets. But the Ministry of Finance does a lot to make sure the situation doesn't slide back to problems and issues. So, Mr. Trunin, how do you face the challenges of digitalization and the new challenges of tech policies? Thank you for having me as one of the speakers. Let me first of all tell you that we did all together. We shaped this pilot project as experiment. And indeed, it is a unique experience that is far from being finalized. That is the third quarter of our pilot year. So what makes this experiment unique? When we were shaping this new tax regime, on the one hand, we were looking at technologies that enabled us to launch a contactless tax administration. But most importantly, we looked at and we relied on, for the first time probably, on our potential taxpayers, on what they wanted to see. This 4% tax rate didn't come out of the blue. That is the tax rate that the majority of respondents spoke about. And among them were people who were not always paying their taxes properly. Of course, we also took into account the psychology of our people who do not want to go to tax service office, who want to do what they've been doing, to mind their own business. Thanks to questionnaires and surveys that the Federal Tax Service conducted, we collected all of this information, and now we have 200,000 pilot regions and pilot taxpayers. Preliminary results are wonderful. I believe that we should distribute this pilot system further into our tax legislation. We should use this new technology, this new platform that helps taxpayers and tax services to communicate. There is yet another project, tax monitoring, when tax bodies are a part of a system. They are able to monitor the situation online. There are no special audits or something like that when we look through every page of our taxpayers' documents. But we monitor how our taxpayers pay their taxes, how they collect all of the necessary information, and now we are preparing an initiative to cancel a simplified tax system, because now we are finalizing the launch of POS till systems. That is a unique system that enables us to establish a communication channel with our taxpayers, which is available 24 hours, 7 days a week. Due to various reasons, we are slightly lagging behind some of the trends, and transborder online trade is not, unfortunately, a part of the focus of customs bodies and tax bodies. I believe we should work with this too. Of course, no custom body can look through thousands and thousands of goods that go through the customs. We need to establish a new system for that, because we have enormous cash flows that go in circumvention of the government. What I would like to stress is that despite the fact that we are the Ministry for Finance and we are in charge of our budget and our finance, and it is the tax service that is responsible for tax collection and so on and so forth, the objective of our self-employed project is not to seek additional income. More than 50% of those who registered as self-employed were not paying anything before. But that is not our objective. Our objective is to invite people, is to invite taxpayers to communicate with the government and tax services on a legal basis. We need to build this trustworthiness to the state, to our tax services, but not to generate additional income. I would like to thank you for this clarification, because before it sounded pretty weird to me that you were creating this new tax system not to generate additional income. Now you clarified all this. Let me make our discussion more dramatic. On the 12th of September at 5 p.m., we registered our 2,000th taxpayer. It is a designer from the Nizhny Novgorod region. And I remember during the New Year's at 7 minutes past midnight, the first taxpayer who registered was a young lady who is a nail artist from the city of Chelyabinsk. And it is wonderful that people are willing to join this new system. We also invited self-employed people, real self-employed people. I do not know them personally. They do not know me personally. First of them is Nikolai Kadulov, a Yandex taxi driver from Moscow. And our second self-employed taxpayer is Alexei Kravchuk, who is a showman. I wanted to call him a wedding host, but he told me not to call him this way. And now, by the way, we have this wonderful law when officials can let their flats and have this additional income. That is why Mr. Makarov is also a wonderful host here. I also called you a host, a wonderful moderator. So that is the small surprise of ours. But let us look at what we did with our friends. All eyes on the screen. They say the application My Tax makes the life of the self-employed more simple. That is the story of Alexei. After yesterday's wedding, Alexei received quite a sum of money. He paid his taxes only 4%, and now he has so much time for a very important job. He rented a flat. He ordered a delivery. And he had a dinner with the most important woman of his life, his mother, just to notify her of the fact that he was moving out. His mother also downloaded my tax application. The conclusion is as simple. Contactless tax administration is our future. Alexei, I believe that this threshold of 200,000 will be soon achieved. So, Alexei, why you decided to become a self-employed person? Why did you do that? Hello. Hi. Finally, I have the mic. That was a very nice surprise. Can I please have this video actually for my portfolio? So I decided to become a self-employed person not because I wanted to jump on a hype train. That was not the reason. I decided to register as a self-employed person to become legal. I realized what will happen if I admit that for 10 years I haven't been paying taxes. Will they put me behind bars immediately? Well, they didn't. So that was just a step for me to legalize my income, because it was very hard to open your own company or to register as an individual entrepreneur. So for me it was a wonderful opportunity to legalize my business and to have some perks, because I can, for example, take out a loan. But I believe we should promote this information about self-employed people. And you were a member of a KVN team, right? Like a stand-up comedy. You should tell your colleagues about that. And how did you register? Did you use the platform? I did. So the service that Mr. Volish developed made you self-employed, yes. Could you share your opinion about the platform? Well, it is pretty user-friendly. It is intuitively understandable. If you compare it to paying simplified tax, it is way faster because it takes a couple of minutes. It is very comfortable. That is very nice for me to hear it, that it is comfortable for you to use this platform. Because the dream of many aggregators is to build these alliances with major companies. If we're speaking about acquiring a company, then without a due diligence, your price, your value will be discounted. So that is what we're dwelling on now, because we'll be working on contactless tax administration in the future. And let's take a look at another video.
Tax bodies want to create a simple, convenient service for self-employed. Federal Tax Service presents a new generation of tax administration. All interaction with taxpayers happens on the digital platform. Also, we'll have the mobile application for this. Since the 1st January of 2019, Federal Tax Service has launched a new pilot project which can solve the problems of administration of taxes of self-employed. The simple mobile application made it possible to have a breakthrough in tax administration. Now a person can start to do business so just at the time when this idea came up into his mind. When a person is identified by the system, he is ready to become a self-employed person. Mobile application can give you a bill immediately, and self-employed don't have this opportunity, don't have this need to have POS till. deals. So also tax declarations are not necessary. Applications considers the incomes, the income through digital platforms. Also, taxes can be written off from the card. It's very easy to pay taxes now. Contactless transaction tax payment becomes real. Okay, these horizontal relations of those who work with data are not simple. But we started it. We were not ready to do this 24/7 until we went through this. Of course, Yandex and data aggregates do this very well, but this is the journey which was passed by innovators. So speaking about the nuances of the state service, so it's not so simple to be adequate, here in this area. I named several companies, world companies. Arkady, the question to you: what do you expect from the government? If we speak about digital, preparedness, not not to prevent these plans to become true. First of all, you are quite modest about our unpreparedness. When we started to work, for this project, we were quite taken, aback of this problem. Tax inspection also helped us a lot. I even see the faces of people here who participated in it, and I would like to, to thank you for them, because tax inspectors were so involved in this process, and even they explained us something. So this work was like two good companies who just wanted to, have one an interface. That's why tax inspection was ready to accept new technologies. Of course, we want to continue to feed in these solutions into our services. Since September, we start to cooperate with Zena authors. So these are people who make notes in Zena, and they want also to become self-employed. Since September, we give them this opportunity. Also, there is an unnoticed part of Yandex, which is called Yandex Talaka, which means build a house together, from Belarus language. In Yandex, there are 10,000 employees and hundreds of people who help to create the system. In Talaki, hundreds of people teach robots to become smart. For example, they give robots two pictures, and the robots study these pictures. They try to compare them and so on. And a lot of population works in this new area. This is like a new profession, so teaching of robots. And yes, there are many people, dozens of people, and these people also will become self-employed till the end of the year. And of course, Yandex couriers will become self-employed. And we can see a big advantage here, not only for people, but also for our service, because our service is variable. It's like one window, and this is like part of our service functionality. Also, I would like to note, Mikhail mentioned about trust. So if we want to make this pleasurable for people to pay tax, so first of all, trust is important, and the technical administration allows us to do the following. So to ensure people that they don't overpay. Also simplicity and simplicity is very important. I think people did not pay taxes because it was very difficult to do this. They were ready, but they just were afraid of a bunch of work they had to do. But if it's easy for them, just press a button, everybody will do it, I think. Yes, absolutely agree. Moreover, this is what we need to continue to do, because we... about this POS tills online, and here we want to simplify, accounting. But if we want to cancel it, we need to generate all the recipes through internet. And German supported this idea, because we made the technology with him and also fiscal operator, and now Arkady understands very well what Internet of Things is, which generates millions of data, and then we look differently at statistics, planning, tax administration, calculation of average customer basket. This is a very important direction, and it seems to me that together the things will lead to the following. We'll stop to require something from people. German, the question is to you. So this interface, API, this is like a window inside of the window. I know your attitude towards quality, and sometimes you try to replace what the government, does inefficiently, and you help the government to create some technologies. This is your help to the government. For the government, how do you see this further development of these windows? Because as Sberbank, savings bank, this is legal, and the self-employed people come to your platform, and they want to be legal. But how should we interact further? As I've said, the model which you demonstrated, this is the model of the future. And if we come back to what you face as taxpayers, or we as suppliers of some goods or services, we deal with human psychology and what is a prevalent factor of this psychology. And there are two major things. Economists say that the rational theory defines all activities of people. So he wants to be everything profitable, and that's why you don't say I want this, but you say I want to understand what is profitable for people, and you choose this way to the way of economists, the approach of economists. You want to see the profitability. If it's profitable to pay, so he will pay. It's more profitable to pay than not to pay. Then psychologists. So the world is not so rational. Psychologists say that people sometimes make irrational decisions. So this philosophy or theory of prestige is important, because people change this economic model for prestige model. And also sociologists say till one level of income people make rational decisions, but after this prestige theory dominates. But in your case, there's two key motives of people's behavior: profitability and prestige, they connect, they link here. So, for example, on tax forum we can see a person who earns on this illegally, and local tax inspection will come. And this is like half legal, half illegal. All our celebs, so when we speak about income, they don't want to explain it. And now they want to speak about this. Now these people even come to the bank, and we can evaluate, people's income indirectly. So he can ask for money, then he can go to the social system. Okay, I need social services. So then he goes to internet. He can advertise his social services to this person, and tax inspector cannot, control this. And this self-employed person can show the mobile application. This changes the world picture, and this connection will change everything. Dealers will go away from the market. Real estate agents disappear, and all dealers will disappear. We worked with the real estate agents first, then their field of work is getting narrow. All dealers will go away from the market. You don't need so many tax inspectors, and customers can see that this is profitable, and this is needed to be done in all spheres in all taxes. You cannot cover the whole field. Through us, through a lot of companies, you can reach to your customers. Everything should be profitable and transparent. Transparency should be profitable for people. And then people can motivate their own behavior. They will have prestigious and profitable behavior activities, and people will support you. Thank you very much. So now I have a new definition of an economist. This is a very well-informed information technologist. We are becoming economists. Tax inspectors become also economists because so tax inspectors have economic mindset, because his work develops him, allows him to do this, to become an economist. Maxim, now the question to you: what else can we, what else can we do for you, for Tsian, to work for you to work even better? We have legal services. We pay all taxes. Now. I can say that during several last years, I dealt with the tax service not so much, because first we had a small business, now it's becoming more and bigger. And last time I spoke with tax inspectors in 90s, long ago, and I had a very different impression about tax inspectors, and the image of the government also has changed. In tax service, I can see very experienced people working. So the seventh tax service is created to work with internet giant companies, internet companies, and this seventh tax service is very good, really good, very good experts work there. What else can you do for us? I can answer this question. First of all, so German said about transparency, spoke about transparency a lot, about the transparent world. Of course, maybe we should work more towards transparency. Also, we should speak about advantages of this product. You made a classical a classical good product. You researched consumption. You understood the curve of elasticity. You made this product very easy and convenient. But not all people know about this.
From my point of view, we've been promoting our products, and more than half of the population do not know about that. I believe you should make it heard. I believe that's important. In 10 years' time, we do not know what will happen, and people are wondering what will happen. And of course, we should be promoting services that will be in high demand then, such as healthcare insurance. It is, of course, very nice when you have this direct contact between Federal Tax Service and your end taxpayer. There are means to do that, to establish that communication in an efficient and cheap way. Self-employed people, those people who are taxi drivers, babysitters, private tutors, they all communicate with us through internet aggregators because that is where they're looking for their jobs. Well, we work to make people come to us. Yes, I see that. I'm sorry that I'm only talking as a businessman, because when I have a product, I need to look at how we can promote it. Today, these are online marketplaces. Now we work very nicely with central tax authorities, and we know how to do things, how to have our API. But let us imagine I'm a taxi driver. I pay taxes using my marketplace. But if you move to the next stage, it is the marketplace who automatically pays taxes for me, as well as for a babysitter or for a private tutor. You know what we want to do? We want to perfect. We want to make our product flawless before we actually reach out to everyone. That is why we first reach out to companies who are ready to have their APIs, and now we're waiting for people to join in, because now we are in an experimental stage, so we have to be cautious. Now I will ask Ilya Trunyan and Andrei Makarov. Andrei, let me start with you. What do you think about continuing this project? Has the Ministry for Finance done everything for continuing this experiment? Because the question today is how the regions will react to it, how major aggregators will react. Andrei, what do you think? It's been 9 months now. I believe everybody sees that the experiment has proven successful. There was this article that was called Success Dizziness. It was written by one of the Marxist-Leninist scholars. So I believe what is important is that this new tax system was not designed to generate new income, but to make people understand that that is totally okay to pay taxes. At the State Duma, we received so many letters from the head of regions who wrote us that we see that this experiment is wonderful, we lack resources, we lack money, we need this experiment in our regions. Even before we reported on preliminary results, there was a plan on how many self-employed people there should be in each and every region. It was a KPI, basically. We only had this experiment in 4 regions, but it was somehow so important to report on our success. Should we really pass this experiment on to other regions? Yes, of course we should. But why we pick these 4 regions to experiment on? Because these are donor regions. They do not need additional income, because we do not want the self-employed tax system to be used as a tool to generate additional income. And as soon as we realized that it was possible to use it not as a tool of generating additional income, we decided that we should proceed and that we should distribute. We should make this experiment circulate to other donor regions. We have 13 of them across the country. These are regions, almost all of them, that have cities with more than 1 million population, because we want to make sure that these regions will not pursue having additional income. That's how I believe we should do. We should first move this region to the rest of, move this experiment to the rest of donor regions. But I'm critically against extending this experiment to the whole country. And I believe we should delete this information on how many self-employed people there should be in every region, because this flawed information should not damage the whole idea. Ilya, the question goes to you now. Thank you. It is true that the special tax system for self-employed people is a pilot project, and that is why in the first month there was no promotion, because we were really rolling out the mechanism itself, and we needed to make sure that there were no flaws from the technical point of view. We needed to make sure that the system was operational. Now we see that this experimental tax is in high demand. We have 200,000 people who registered as self-employed person. So we see that this experimental tax system is in high demand. Of course, we'll analyze all of the data that we've collected so far. But we see that this system, this regime, is popular with people, but we should take into account all of the risks. We have now digital inequality, and we should take into account as well. We should look at how economically active people are, because it helps to reduce budget risks. That is why I believe that proceeding with this experiment is a viable solution, because the first 4 participants to this experiment are donor regions. They do not receive any funding, additional funding, and these are the regions where we have cities with more than 1 million population. And I believe that this experiment will be expanded to other donor regions. I do hope that the government will support this decision, and as the representative of the tax service, I can tell you that we have an opportunity to do that. Well, if you say you have a technical opportunity to do that, probably you can work with your colleagues from other bodies, and probably they can automate their services as well. For instance, let us take taxi drivers. A taxi driver registers as a self-employed, and you need to have a license to be a taxi driver. You need to have the special permit. To do that, you should register as an individual entrepreneur, or you should work with an aggregator. But in order to get registered as an individual entrepreneur, you need to go through a whole different procedure. What about you? Did you have to register as an individual entrepreneur? You need to be an individual entrepreneur to have a permit, yes. So that is what I'm talking about. You should automate the whole process. We are ready to get together, to discuss it, and to help other bodies. But norms are there, regulations are in place. As an aggregator, we work a lot. Our taxpayers have their private pages, and they can communicate with 15 different bodies there. Mr. Graf, well, you see, we just talked about how we can transform the government, the state. And as it happens, one of the least pleasant governmental functions is tax collection. So we started with this function, and we can move further now. For example, let us take the city of Moscow. Apart from tax collection, we have tickets, we have fines. People are ready to pay twice as much if it would mean that a traffic officer will stop bothering them. But now they're giving them tickets, and then you have to go to some other authorities. And it turns out it is simpler to bribe these traffic officers than to go through an official procedure. What we did, we decided to use technologies to recognize cars and pictures. Today it is all digitalized. If you violated traffic regulations, in 3 to 5 minutes you have your ticket in your smartphone. You can pay automatically, and if you pay within first 14 days, you will have a 50% discount. And of course, in order to make it simpler, you opt for an automated payment, and that is, you don't have to talk to traffic officers, to some officials, nothing. Moscow has 24 billion in taxes, and automation in digitalization provided Moscow with an opportunity to have 500 less staff to do that. So we can draw only one conclusion. We need a new urban management model that will enable people to live differently. They will not have to be concerned. They will not need to hide. Those self-employed people we have here, they're ready to be self-employed. They're happy to be self-employed and to pay their taxes. So what we should do, we should offer people to become fully legal, and we should offer them discounts. Of course, tax collection is not the easiest function of the state, but it can be automated, and all of the other spheres of the government work can be automated. We are now going away from this word that we used to use so much, process. Process management is a thing of the past for the new economy. Today we have this customer journey concept. So we really have to look at this customer journey end to end. You cannot just automate a part of it, because you automated your tax payment, but somehow then you need to register as an individual entrepreneur, and you have to do that manually. You really have to automate the whole journey. And by the way, we have now this concept of super services. These services, they cover some of the needs of people, of legal entities. And this type of an approach will enable us to transfer the whole thing. You know, Mr. Graf, I remembered this quote that the worst architect in the world is different of the best bee in the world. Because a bee, before building a hive, it thinks it's through. So when we think about customer journeys, we really should look into the future. You once said that the problems that Russia has is an underdeveloped infrastructure and a lack of human capital. The infrastructure that we are working on at the tax service, it is also part of the government's infrastructure, Because what we're trying to do is we try to help businesses who generate new jobs, who develop, in order for us together to be able to meet the needs of our people and to ensure that clients can talk to the service providers directly.
Also, we think that we try to meet these challenges which are here in the world, and this. So there is also the issue whether the state should exist in the future. But I hope that we meet all these challenges. And now I want to speak about these people who did this. Yegor Tanina, please stand up. This is the person who worked at this. Andrei Budarin, are you here also? Because he also worked at this. These people, these guys, they really were in charge of this process. And for us, it was a great joy. As in the movie, Moscow Doesn't Believe Your Tears. Where everybody invited the friends for them to praise the owners, but we don't want to be praised. We just want to work well. Thank you very much for your attention.